Hello, hello. I am Island Origins publisher Calibe Thompson, and this is attorney Marlon Hill, and welcome to Plan Your Vote, a weekly series where we get our friends and neighbors ready for the 2020 U.S. national elections and our local elections. We'll be here with you live each Sunday evening at 7 p.m., leading up to the general election on Tuesday, November 3rd. So, what are we talking about on tonight's show, Marlon?
Well, tonight we are welcoming the director of one of the largest elections departments in the country, the seventh in the nation, the largest of the 67 counties in the state of Florida, Christina White. She's going to be walking us through the voting process, getting ready to prepare and to plan our vote, and talking about her busy life behind the scenes for the next 30 plus days until election day on November the 3rd.
Awesome, awesome. Before we get started, though, I would, of course, like to share some thoughts. So, Marlon, I'm going to take you off screen just for a moment. Oops, wrong. All right. So this week, the president declared that he would not commit to accepting the outcome of the election. He has several times promoted the idea that though polls may say one thing, if the final count doesn't come out saying another, then the results will be illegitimate. And this is something he has said a few times. Voters' confidence in our American election system is being shaken. And as a result, election officials are giving us a closer look into the belly of the electoral beast, a closer look than we've ever had before. In theory, many potential voters are being turned off of the voting process because of the political animosity and vitriol that are gripping the headlines. At the same time, we are hearing about record voter registration in some states. People are realizing that it's no longer just the economy stupid, but that their voices will determine how our interaction with COVID and other science-based life and death issues, our healthcare system, our constitutional and civil rights, our response to climate change, and so much more will be handled at least for the next 4 years. In South Florida, 1 in 4 residents has a direct connection to the Caribbean, and so our voices are not to be taken for granted. In my personal story, I had my green card for decades before becoming a citizen, and I became a citizen specifically because I wanted the right to vote. And when my candidate won, nobody could tell me that it wasn't my vote that put him over the top. Every election charts the course of our collective future. Every vote is a voice in making that decision. And the best way for you to get that feeling, the feeling that you had an active part in deciding our future together, is making your voice heard. There is a lot of noise and misinformation out there now, and some of it is warranted. We are here to help you figure out fact from fiction and understand how to ensure your vote is counted. Joining us today again is Miami-Dade Supervisor of Elections, Miss Christina White. Christina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on, and this is one of my favorite parts of the job, to actually talk to the people in our community and make sure that they have the information that they need, because with education becomes confidence, and confidence turns into voting. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. With that, Marlon, if I may start with a question that may seem silly, but I don't think everybody knows. What are the roles and responsibilities of a supervisor of elections?
So the state of Florida has a supervisor of elections in each one of the counties. As Marlon said at the top of the show, I run the largest elections operation in the state of Florida. And that means that we oversee all aspects of the conduct of an election, from hiring and training our poll workers to preparing the voting equipment, preparing the ballots, running early voting and election day, processing all vote by mail ballots coming in, and of course, tabulating the results at the end of the night and displaying those results for the public. So it's quite a lot, and it's a lot to take on. But again, I look forward to going into the processes with all of you.
Well, certainly, Christina, you're managing a budget of 32 million, well over 100 full-time employees, and over 6,000 poll workers for the largest elections operations in the state of Florida. We have no drama here in the state of Florida, Christina. Everything is smooth over the last 20 years. But we are going to separate fact or fiction tonight. We have you here. We thank you for giving us a slice of your Sunday afternoon from the family to help us sort all of this out and help us to plan our vote for the next 30 plus days.
My pleasure. An exciting 35 days ahead of us.
You know, I know you're not counting. Do you have like a clock in your house, like counting down?
Just up here.
So let's get into it, Christina. One of the first things that we really want to talk about, and we're about a week away from registering to vote, the deadline to register to vote, where your registration is can be posted, has to be postmarked by October the 5th. What is the best way to register to vote? On paper, online? What's the quickest way, and how long does it take?
So, right, the deadline is October the 5th. And my message for this election for our voters, whether it's registering to vote or actually coming out to vote, is to not wait. The deadlines are there, but don't wait till the last minute because problems can occur and you want to be able to deal with those problems on the front end. So, if you're a voter that is watching this, listening to this, and haven't registered yet, do it now, do it tonight, do it tomorrow, do it early. Don't wait till the deadline. The options are really either you go on to our website and you do online voter registration, which is the easiest thing to do. Or the other option is that you print out, again, from our website, the registration form. They're also in libraries, and a mail out actually went out to hundreds of thousands of voters in Miami-Dade that were eligible but not registered with the form to get them to register. So either one of those options.
When you
While
register
online,
online, though, how do you capture the signature?
right, and that's exactly where I was going to go with it. While online voter registration is the easiest thing to do, you have to already have a state of Florida driver's license or Florida ID in order to be able to utilize that system. Because what happens is when you enter your information into the system, it does a cross check with the Department of Motor Vehicle, grabs your signature from your driver's license, and that's what gets sent to the supervisor's office. So if you don't have one of those two documents already, that system is going to stop you. And so you are now somebody who should use the voter registration application where, you know, you would print it, you would fill it out, you would have a wet signature on it and mail it back to our office.
And so if you register online, I imagine it would immediately give you some kind of acknowledgement to say you are successfully registered. If I am out on the street and somebody says, hey, let me sign you up to vote, and I do one of those on the street things, that person is supposed to put me into a system. How do I go back in and check now that I've actually been registered and my paper wasn't thrown in the trash somewhere?
Okay, so you will get an acknowledgement online that your information has been entered. It's not going to tell you that you were successfully registered. So the reason being is that in the state of Florida, the Division of Elections is tasked with doing data matches with, again, the Department of Motor Vehicle, the Department of Vital Statistics, Social Security Office, to make sure that you are, in fact, one, a real person, and two, that you are a Florida resident. And so in either instance, that information is coming into our system. And within a few days, the state is doing that kind of data matching. And you can go onto our website or you can call my office and ask us, did you get my information? Am I good? Is an option. But ultimately, within 2 weeks or so, you will receive your voter information card in the mail, which is really your confirmation that everything went well. Or, as I said earlier about not waiting until the last minute, if for some reason your form was incomplete or if for some reason the state couldn't verify you, it doesn't happen very, very often, but you'll get a letter from us to say, we need more information from you. And then, you'll have time to react to that, which is why I go back to not waiting, right? Do all of this as soon as possible.
That may be for newly registered voters, Christina. What about if you just moved, or you are now disabled, you had a stroke recently, or you're going away to college? What's your recommendation with regards to those types of registrations before October the 5th?
So address changes within the state of Florida are completely fine. There's no deadline on that. You can continue to do it all the way up to election day. But, same thing. You can go on to online voter registration if you're already registered and you just want to change your address. Or for those college students, you don't necessarily need to change your address, but maybe just have your vote by mail sent to wherever you are at college, right? So that really is, I think, a personal decision about where you call your home, whether you want to keep it here in Miami-Dade or if you want to change it to where you're going to college.
Okay. Last year, the last election, we passed Amendment 4 restoring the rights of those who former convicted felons, restoring their rights to vote. And there was a lot of litigation about that recently with regards to having paid your time, but not paying your fees. Can you bring us up to speed? What is the current status of former convicted felons registering to vote and having the right to vote? What's your process? Walk us through, someone who may be watching or listening right now, as to what they should do.
Sure. Yeah, it was quite a roller coaster with the litigation and, what was included, what was not included. So at this moment, if you are a convicted felon in the state of Florida, and here's the key: if you have completed all terms of your sentence, jail, probation, parole, any kind of restitution, and here's how it sort of ended in the last case is, it also includes any fees and fines that were assessed to you in the court system. If you have completed all of those things, so and you're the only one that knows this, if you've completed your terms of your sentence, you are eligible to vote in the state of Florida, with two exceptions. If it was a murder conviction or if it was a sexual felony, those people cannot register to vote unless they go through the clemency board. So anybody else, you are entitled to register to vote. As long as you do so before October 5th, you can in the upcoming election. And so process-wise on our end, really through all of that, it never changed. Our policy was, if you're a voter and you fill out that application and you, under penalty of perjury, has checked the box to say, yes, I'm 18 years of age, yes, I'm a US citizen, and yes, I am eligible because I have completed the terms of my sentence for a felony, we register you. We are not questioning that on the front end. You will be registered. As I mentioned, with the other registrations, that data goes up to the state of Florida. They'll do a review. If they find that there is something outstanding in that person's background, they will notify the supervisor of that county. And then our responsibility is to notify the voter, to say, hey, wait a minute here. We think that there's something outstanding. Either provide proof that you have complied with all of this. Otherwise, we will be removing you from the voter rolls. And that's how the process will be moving forward.
But as long as the application is postmarked, as long as it's postmarked before October 5th, that person should be fine if it's all resolved.
Correct. So either on the website on October 5th, no later than, but if it's the form that you're sending into us, yes, as long as it's postmarked by October 5th and we get it a couple of days later, you're still good.
All right, before we move on, I just want to invite all of our viewers, if you have any questions for Christina, please go ahead and drop them in the comment section. We are live this evening. All right, we're moving on to voting methods, right? So I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, there are 3 voting methods: in person, early voting, and absentee ballot or mail-in voting, which is the same thing, right?
Is it the same thing?
Is it the same thing?
You know what the difference is? The letters by which you use to say the term. It is the same thing. So many, many years ago, absentee voting had the implication in the state of Florida that you had to have a reason to not be able to go in person. A sickness, traveling, something like that. Many years ago, that no longer became the case. Anybody in the state of Florida, as long as you asked for a ballot, you were able to vote in that method. And that is why the legislature changed the terminology to say that it is vote by mail, because anybody can do it, which is not to be confused with universal mailing, which is something that is also talked about on the national level. In the state of Florida, you have to request your vote by mail ballot, and then you will receive it and you're entitled to vote that way.
Okay. All right.
All right. That settles that.
It does. So let's actually start with in person, though, because that's the one that I think most people are familiar with and comfortable with. And that's the one that happens on November 3rd. What, I don't know if you noticed, but we're in the middle of a pandemic and everybody doesn't want to go outside necessarily. So based on the concerns about COVID and safety and so forth, how are your offices and your, poll workers and so forth, how are you getting prepared for that November 3rd date? And how should the people who do decide that they want to go out in person, how should they prepare as well?
Right. So this is actually going to be our 3rd election that we're running during the pandemic. We ran the presidential primary election really just weeks after the first positive cases of COVID were in the state of Florida. And so we've been applying all of the CDC guidelines and the Department of Health guidelines. And what that means is all of our poll workers are being provided with masks, gloves, face shields, hand sanitizer, sanitizing wipes to wipe down everything in between voters. And, of course, maintaining social distance to the degree that we are going to be able to in a presidential election. And so, in my opinion, and that's both for early voting and on election day, we'll be doing that. And again, we did it back in primary, and our voters gave us very positive feedback that they felt safe in the polls. And our poll workers did too. And so I definitely would not want somebody who wants to come in person to feel like they can't vote or shouldn't vote because they are concerned for their health. We are going to make sure that it is sanitized and it is safe for them to come out and vote and take advantage of that if they so choose and they prefer not to vote by mail.
And then if I'm coming there, if I'm coming to the polling place, do I need to, if I'm an anti-masker or I don't want to, what are the protections, or how should I protect myself if I want to come out and vote in person?
So on the voters' end, yes. In Miami-Dade County, it is required that you wear a mask to enter the polling room. Thankfully, going through the primary election, we didn't have anybody that gave us a problem. If somebody does come without a mask, we have a small inventory on hand to provide them one. And we are offering hand sanitizer on the way into the poll and also on the way out so that they feel safe while they're in there. Another thing that I would add is you can go onto our website and look at your specific sample ballot. And Marlon, thank you, because I heard you talking about that the other day, and it's so important. We've got 6 state questions and 3 county questions, 2 pages front and back. And it's important for education purposes, but it's also a great thing in terms of COVID, because the more that you're prepared on the front end, the quicker you're going to be in and out of that polling room and the less you're going to be exposed to other people. So I think that, preparing in advance is going to help in that way as well.
I can take that with me in the polling booth?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we know that you're managing over 900 precincts, Christina, and over 30 early voting locations. Thank you so much for providing an extra 2 weeks. How many weeks of early voting are we going to have? And tell us a little bit about the process for early voting.
So early voting begins on October 19th through November 1st. So 14 full days of voting, 12 hours a day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 33 sites all throughout Miami-Dade County, which means that no voter has an early voting site more than 3 miles from their home. And the beauty of early voting is that you can go to any location that you want. On election day, it's very important. Voters must go to their assigned precinct. But the beauty of early voting is that you can go anywhere you like, near your kid's school, work, wherever. And we also are posting the wait times for all of our early voting sites on our website every hour, on the hour, for all of our sites, so you can make an informed decision to which site to go to at what point due to short wait times.
Wow.
I will say, I guess a pro tip here is, again, going back to getting it out of the way early. With each passing day for early voting, the turnout begins to pick up, right? I think just we're procrastinators by nature. And so the earlier you go, the quicker you're going to be in and out.
In 2016, Christina, we had a voter turnout of over 72%. What are you budgeting or planning for this year in 2020? Do you have a number in mind internally that you guys go, we should target turnout 75, 80, 85?
Yes. So everything we do in my department is very mathematically based. Sometimes I nail it, sometimes I don't. I am preparing for 80% voter turnout. I think I think people are enthused and they are energized. So I do believe we will be breaking the records of the past. So my money's on 80%.
So we know that vote by mails, Calibe, are also up in terms of the request. For the early voting locations, should I choose to vote by mail, I can drop off my vote by mail ballot at any early voting location, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So on October 1st, we are going to be mailing over 530,000 vote by mail ballots out,
Wow.
which is historic by all accounts. And we still will have about 24 days of requests coming in. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of voting by mail. So if you're in that mail out, which is anybody that would have a request on file up until just probably about a week or so ago, don't wait. Just get your ballot, vote it, and get it in the mail. It gives you plenty of time to get it back. You can track it, the status of it on our website. So there should be no question marks whatsoever about whether we received your ballot or whether or not it was counted. But then, so I don't want people to fear the post office. We have a great relationship with them. They get us our mail quickly and vice versa. But to your point, if you're somebody who prefers to hand it in person, not a problem. We have actually adapted to COVID. And we brought these boxes that we previously had inside the early voting location for voters to drop off their ballot, and we brought them outside. And so the beauty now is you can just drive up, not even get out of your car, and hand your ballot to our ballot box coordinator at any one of the early voting sites. So that's certainly an option for you.
Wow. So all early voting locations, you can just drive up, have the capacity to drive up and drop your ballot off?
Yes. Yep. We did it in the primary. It worked quite well. And yes, we'll be doing that again in November. So you just, you pull in and you'll be directed to that ballot drop off box and drop it in.
I know Calibe cares about this issue of what is the timing of requesting a vote by mail and the estimation of what you think the post office should get it back to you. Do you guys have any estimations to help people with the trust issues?
So on the request side, we have a state requirement. We have to process that request within 2 days of receiving it. So we are putting it in and getting that ballot out to you within 2 days, which is very tight. And, if you're local, I would say give it 2 to 3 days to get it to your home. And then, again, quickly vote it as quick as possible. Do your research and get it back to us. And, it's usually within 2 to 3 days, but, I don't want to give any I never, not just because of the narrative now, but I have never told people to count on 2 to 3 days. Usually my messaging is if it's the Friday before the election and you still have not put your ballot in the mail, don't chance it. Hand it to us directly, right? Bring it to an early voting site, bring it to my office. You're cutting it too close at that point.
Great advice.
Yeah, that sounds like the best of both worlds, that I can fill it out at home and then actually put it into somebody's hands so I know it's getting there and I'm not worrying about getting lost in the mail. So yes, I do have panic attacks and
but here's the thing, that we have a tracker on our website, and it's so easy. You just put in a few basic pieces of information about yourself and you track your ballot, and it tells you when your request was received, when we mailed it to you, if we've received it or not, and whether it was counted or not. So that, I hope, is going to give people that peace of mind to continue to use the post office.
So here's my devil's advocate question about the absentee and mail-in ballot, right? So I get my mail-in ballot, I sit here with my tea and my crumpets and I fill out my mail-in ballot, and then I actually go drop it in the post box because I'm very good and I do it early, and I'm watching the clock, and here comes October 30th and here comes November 2nd, and I'm on your tracker and my thing does not look like it's gone in there. Can I still go in and vote if I'm not sure that it made it into the election?
Yes, you can. And that's a great question. Yes, you can. So we are on what I call a live system. And that means that whatever vote comes in, meaning if you walked into an early voting site, we swipe your driver's license, we process you, that comes back to the department. Or if we've received your ballot in the mail and we processed it. Once that happens, it will lock a voter out from voting in any other method. But on the opposite side of that, same thing. If you show up at early voting and you say, I put my ballot in the mail, but I don't know if you got it, they'll allow you to vote if we didn't receive it. So it's not a problem.
You just made a new friend, Christina. So we live in a county that is high percentage of foreign-born residents and citizens. So we have a lot of folks who travel and live overseas in Latin America and Europe and the Caribbean as well. What is the process for is it the same requesting your ballot? Your ballot is sent to you by email. Can it be sent by mail? And what are the required ways to send it back and to make sure that it's processed and counted?
So if you're an overseas voter, clearly you're going to be voting by mail. You have two options for how you want to receive that ballot by my department. We can either email it to you, or you can have it mailed to you. And when you're putting that request in as an overseas voter, you will indicate to us which one of those options you are interested in.
I see.
Either way, you do it. So obviously, if we send you the physical ballot, you've got to mail that back. That's going to take longer. If we email you, you have to print it out, you have to fill it out, and your options for returning it are either by fax or to actually fold it up and put it in the mail to us. So we can email it to you, but you cannot email it back.
Right.
You can only fax it or mail it to us.
So you have to put the ballot in an envelope and an envelope in an envelope?
So it's a little tricky. So what we're emailing you is the envelope, which is on a flat sheet of paper, the instructions, and the ballot. Once you print everything up and you fill out your ballot, you're actually going to be assembling the envelope.
Oh.
And it's already postage paid, and you put it in the mail to us.
And for the people voting from abroad, they need to also not wait until the last minute, because a little bird told me that somebody I told to vote early waited until the final day to try and fax everything in, and apparently they couldn't get through on the fax line, because I'm sure everybody waited to fax at the same time. Yeah.
I would love to research that. I have not heard that being the case, but yes, my message is the same for everybody, especially if you're an overseas voter, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Especially since you have to print it and get it back to us. So yes, do it as early as possible and use the tracker or call our office if you have any questions about whether or not we've received it.
Right.
So Christina, we are in the world of news or fake news or true news or whatever. What is keeping you up at night as to what you're hearing from voters as you prepare for these next 30 plus days? What is your message to us with regard to us preparing to vote safely and securely?
You know, from the logistics side, we're ready. We are ready to have another successful election here in Miami-Dade and make all of you voters very proud and feel that your vote was counted accurately and securely. What keeps me up at night is that there is zero tolerance for error in my business.
Right.
So we have to get every single thing right every single time. But you know, again, we are ready for voters. It's just being prepared and voting and doing it early. That really is, you know, my message. You never know. I love the nostalgic people that wait till election day. I get it. They want to go to their precinct. They like their sticker. My husband's one of them. I can't talk him out of it. But anything can happen. Anything can happen, right? So if you're going to vote by mail, get your request in early, get it back early. If you're going to vote early, do it early as well. And then, you know, just continue to do these types of forums so that I can hopefully put people's mind at ease. You know, my megaphone isn't as loud. And
do you have
know,
a troubleshooting hotline?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a troubleshooting hotline? We
do. We have both on election day for our poll workers, if there's any, you know, thing that happens that they need from us on election day. And then also, you know, our we have a voter comment and concern line on our 305-499 vote number. So if there's anything that anybody needs to talk to us about, we're there.
So 305-499-8683, any issues that you have over the voting process and over the next 30 plus days, you can call that line if you live in Miami-Dade County. I know that Calibe is a little bit more settled now in her voting preparation, and for our friends that are overseas. Christina, when do you vote?
I early vote. So what I do is I go around to all the early voting sites and check in and, you know, thank the poll workers. It's a long 14 days for them. And, you know, whenever I get inspired, I vote. I actually voted at the Calibe Center in the primary election. It was lots of fun. I don't know. It was time. So I did it there.
Do you go in a disguise?
I try, but it doesn't work.
An undercover boss. So if I then fill out my ballot and I go to the polling station and drop it off early, can I still get my little sticker?
Yes, but not your polling station though. Very, very important though, because on election day you cannot do that, right? And so that might have just been a matter of terminology on your part, but it's a good way to remind everybody now. you can drop off your ballot at any of the early voting sites, but not on election day. So if you go to your election day polling site with your ballot, we cannot take it. That's Florida law. It's not permitted. So your option at that moment is going to be to surrender the ballot and vote while you're there in person. But yes, at those drop-off boxes, we are giving each voter a sticker. So now I know you're definitely doing that. That's going to be your method of.
Yeah. Before we're actually just running a little bit over time, but I do want to share this because I saw it today and I was pretty proud of Florida for figuring all of this out. I wanted to share this video real quickly.
But on the outside of the envelope, you do your signature. And when that envelope arrives back here, for instance, it would then be opened. They'll match the signatures. They take out the ballot, and they actually run it through the machine. The counting begins as soon as the envelope arrives, but nobody knows the tally until the elections close. The election actually closes on election day, but they're moving along with the process. So on election night, unlike other states, they don't just begin opening envelopes and starting to deal with the cumbersome nature of that. They've got most of that sorted out.
Yeah, I really liked that because in the fracas of all of, how the election is rigged and how everything is going to be stolen, we're seeing that Florida is preparing so that there's no more hanging chad, there's no chance of any of that kind of dramatic stuff happening again this year. All of the absentee ballots will have been received on November 3rd. They're all run through the system, and the count that we get at the end of the night on November 3rd is the final count.
So yes and no. So every day that we receive ballots beginning 19 days prior to the election, we're processing them and we're opening them and we're tabulating them and we're storing them. So when we go into election day, yes, we will have already tabulated all vote by mail ballots that we received through Monday. The question mark is, and always is, how many ballots do we receive on election day, right? In November of 2018, we received over 15,000 vote by mail ballots just on election day. And so what does that mean? We were still counting through the night and into Wednesday morning. It wasn't because it was wrong. That was just Miami, right? So, and it wasn't because, there wasn't anything wrong. There were no mechanical breakdowns, nothing like that. It's just sheer volume. Especially since we actually go to the post office at 7 p.m. on election night to get those last ballots that we possibly can that are in the mail stream. So if we're talking thousands of ballots that are just coming back, at 8, 9 o'clock at night, we're not even processing them until late. And so are 99% of the vote by mail ballots in on election night? Yes. But, that's the big question now is, are we still going to be reading until the following day? And there is that possibility. But, yes, when you guys go to bed on election night and we're still there working, you will have had all of the vote by mail ballots through Monday, all of the early voting ballots, all of the election day precinct ballots, all that stuff is in. It's just a matter of whatever came in on Tuesday.
While being a wife and a mother, the hardest working supervisor of elections in the state of Florida, and the largest of the 67 counties, in the most important state in the Electoral College, Christina White, thank you for being with us. We wish you the best over the next 30 plus days in terms of the hard work and sleepless nights. If you'd like to reach the Supervisor of Elections, 305-499-8683. Are you still looking for poll workers?
We are. It is coming to a close. The last poll worker training class is October 14th. So, it's a matter of if people can get their requests in soon and get into a training class, we are still looking for some. And it's not volunteer. So despite what people think, you actually do get paid. It's not much. It's usually between like $200 and $250, but it is something. And I assure you that, you feel great at the end of the day. It was actually the very first thing that I did to introduce me to this work. And now look at me, I'm running the department. So yes, if you're interested again.
Thank you so much, Christina, for helping us to vote safely and securely. Next week on Calibe, we are going to be welcoming attorney J.C. Planas. He is going to be walking us through some of the legal issues that may arise in helping us to protect our vote and to vote safely and securely as well. So any legal questions that you have about the voting process, we will tackle some of those issues next week, Sunday at 7 p.m.
Thank you very much. And I will comfort myself with all of the wonderful information that Christina gave us, and hopefully when Mr. Planas comes on, I can even a little more easily. Thank you to everyone who watched us this evening. We will see you again here next week, Sunday. Have a great week.